Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk with Saki. So, let's talk imposter syndrome. What is imposter syndrome? I will break it down into like the simplest forms is your insecurities about your achievements. Think of it as um, humility gone dark. You know how people would say, "Oh, you are good at drawing," or let's say, "Oh, I'm so happy that you got the position that you got." And it's like, I don't really deserve it. Those kind of things. It's when people say that, but they really mean it, that they didn't really deserve it. It's not humility. It's when people feel like they're in a place that they don't deserve to be. Let's just stop at that before I start muddying the definition and stuff. So if you want more clarity in what imposter syndrome is, you can Google it yourself. Uh, my first experience with, well, I wouldn't say my first experience, but I always felt imposter syndrome. Like when you're walking down the street or if you walk into a room, the insecurity that you feel like everybody is looking at you might be mixing up things here. That somebody is looking at you and that you, you your clothes not fit where you are. You know, your demeanor does not fit where you are. Like everybody in the room is better than you. Um, like you feel like you are out of place. That's the imposter syndrome. My first one was in the night in Johannesburg, OR Tambo Airport, OR Tambo International Airport. I was coming to Norway for the first time to visit my then girlfriend, now wife, Celia. Celia is my Norwegian wife. We met in South Africa in 2008. We started dating and decided we were going to keep the relationship after 4 months of dating. She had to come back to Norway. We decided that we were going to keep the relationship and see how it goes. It worked, because I'm still here. Man, we're still married. So this night I was waiting for my flight that was going to take me from Johannesburg. I had taken a flight from Port Elizabeth to Johannesburg, but I was going to take a night flight to London, which was going to go from London to Stavanger, Sula. I was so scared of like the experience. I had never thought about this before some years ago. Like how terrifying it was for me to make the decision to take that flight after dating someone for 4 months, right? So, for all terms and purposes, I did not know this woman as well as somebody should to take a flight out of not the country, but of the continent to the other side of the world. Because you understand, I'm from South Africa. South Africa is like at the bottom of the world, depending on perspective. Okay, so Norway is on the other side of the globe, like on the top part of the globe. So to travel from South Africa to Norway over a 4 months relationship is kind of crazy. It's nuts, and that never struck me until this incident happened. So it is around 11:45 around the time, just before 12 o'clock. Our flight is gonna come around quarter to one, and I'm sitting at in this in the waiting. It's not a waiting room. I'm sitting at my gate, and here there's not a lot of people around. It's just me. There's a couple on my left, my right hand side, and if I remember clearly, there was maybe somebody else sitting close by me, but they were, I don't remember. But what I specifically remember, there was a group of teenagers sitting straight ahead of me, like maybe 8 meters away from me, and they had rearranged the furniture of the airport. You know, the seats that you have there in your waiting gate. They had rearranged those seats into a semicircle or a triangle or something like that, so that they could like sit and sit together and stuff like that. I would have never imagined to do that. Even if I was traveling with my friends, I don't think we would have dared to do that, to like rearrange the furniture of the airport. Um, that's also up to like it's the imposter syndrome, the fact that you feel like you you might be found out that you're a fraud at any moment, so you wouldn't do anything to make you stick out, because then you know and I remember sitting here like I was just minding my own business, like thinking about the fact that I am about to leave home for the first time, and I'm not like moving out of town or like just leaving the country. I am flying out of Africa to like a country, mind you, 4 months ago, I had no understanding or acknowledgement or knowledge of their existence. When I met my wife, she told me that she was from Norway, and I was like, Norway? How is that even a country? Is it Norway or is it Norway? You know what I mean? And even people around me, when I told that, oh, my wife is from Norway, and I was like, what is that? You know. Um, so we were sitting here, like with the people in the same situation as I was, waiting for the flight. And this official from, I don't know whether he was working for the Norwegian government or he was working for the embassy or he was working for the airport. But all I know is that that man triggered my my, my fight of fright. Oh, what am I doing? This guy came straight to me. I am the only black person here. These kids that are sitting there, these are white teenagers that are sitting. There must be like 9 or 12 of them, right? But there's like a group of them just sitting there. And this guy makes a beeline straight for me. He has a walkie-talkie on him, and he walks straight up to me, past those kids, because he's walking towards me, which like he has to pass those kids to come to me. So he walks past these kids and comes towards me and asks me for my passport. And I'm like, okay, is this like what they call a random check? Okay, I've flown before. I had flown like actually 2 months prior to me flying to Norway. I'd gone to Joburg, and that was my first time taking a flight, for the first time being on a flight. And this was the second time I was going to be flying. I'd flown from PE to Johannesburg, so this was going to be my fourth flight. This guy asked me for my passport, and I say to him, okay, I'll find it. So I look for my pockets. I am nervous as hell. I am a nerve-wrack. I take out my passport and I give it to him with my boarding passes. And then he asks me, where are you going? And I said, I was going to Norway. And he says, what's your purpose of your visit in Norway? And in all the movies I've watched, this part does not happen here. It happens like later on. So this guy asks me, what's the purpose of your visit to Norway? And I told him that I'm visiting my girlfriend, which people would say is a red flag, because European countries do not want people, especially brown people, coming to their country because of relations. You understand what I mean? So he takes my passport, he looks at it, and I am like shaking at this point, as if I was not nervous enough by the fact that I felt like I was in the wrong place here, and somebody might actually find out at any moment that, hey, this guy has only like 1,500 rands in his bank account. He does not have enough money to stay in Europe. So this guy asks me for my letter of invitation. This is because I told him that I got invited by my girlfriend to come to Norway. So he asks me, where's your letter of invitation? So I give him my letter of invitation. Is not a dear Sakiwo, I would like you to come to. Do you understand? It is just a document. It's a form of some sort that you fill out. The person who's inviting you goes to the police station in Norway. They fill out this form. They take a picture of it with the stamp that they get from the police station, and they mail it to you. You get the letter, and you will attach that to your documents as you are traveling, right? So I give this guy this form, 1-page form, and he asks me for a letter, which is what I said this is not. A letter that says, dear my friend. He says to me, but where's the letter that says, dear my friend? And every alarm in my brain goes off. It's like, I knew this was too smooth. I knew this was too smooth. There was no way I was going to go through here. I was taking chances. There was no way I was going to go to Europe. Me, of all people. And then I just sunk my shoulders, just you know what? I'm ready to get deported back to Port Elizabeth, So he says to me, "So where's that letter?" And I said, "I don't think there is another letter. This is what is called the letter of invitation. It says so right there." He takes this form and turns around, and then he speaks on his walkie-talkie. I don't know what he's saying. I wasn't really listening to what he was saying. So he talks on his walkie-talkie. I don't know. I think he was confirming if whether what I was saying was true, which was weird to me because if he was working for the Norwegian embassy, or like if he's used to this kind of situation, why would he ask for something that he knows not to be the norm? So this guy turns around and says, "Okay, here's your letter and your passport." And he asks me, "When am I coming back?" And I was like, "I think I'm going to be there for 3 weeks." And it's like, "Okay, have a safe flight." So he gives me my papers. And I'm like, "Okay, so he's going to go to the next person and do the same thing." And then, the guy turns around and just like walks straight out the same way he came in. And that for me was mind boggling. And this was on top of my insecurities about me going to Norway, like if whether I'm going to be accepted there by the authorities, not like the community or anything, or society or something like that. But I was like already feeling apprehensive about me going to a country I have never been to before. I had never left my town, like my vicinity. Like I've never left my vicinity of like the region where I come from, Eastern Cape. This was the first time I was leaving Eastern Cape, and this was the first time I was leaving South Africa. And I was like, I was a nerve wreck. I wasn't just leaving to go to Botswana or Angola or any of the African countries. I was going to Norway, which I knew then to be the whitest country in the world, probably next to Switzerland, right? And that was scary, knowing, because my picture of white people is based on my experience with white people in South Africa. You have to understand this. So, and I am lacking in that in general, because I was not used to being around white people. My only interaction with white people was if I met them at work or if I saw them in town or on TV. So here I was dating a white woman, and I was gonna be visiting and staying what was where I was gonna be surrounded. I was already like nervous about that experience, and this guy gives me a trailer of what my experience there might actually look like. And that was terrible. That was terrifyingly terrible. And I will never forget that night. Ever. So that was my my experience in Johannesburg, the first time coming to Norway. And I don't ever want my kids or anybody, regardless who they are, I would never wish that on anybody. So that was my imposter syndrome episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your likes and comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.